So, about those Nintendo Switch Pro rumors. Fox and director Matthew Vaughn have given us a good look at the Kingsman. And we're going to find out a bunch more about Deathloop in a couple of days. All that and the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Welcome to the Rundown, everybody. Thank you for finding me in the Electric Playground. My name is Victor Lucas, and it is my pleasure to have you here. It's also thanks to our sponsor at the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got all kinds of cool things going on over there, so make sure you check them out on the webs and find out all about them at tgs.gg. Okay, today's episode, which is jam-packed with discussion about Nintendo's new machine, is dedicated to the Axe 2021, who commented on our Dead Space murmurs yesterday, because Dead Space is possibly coming back. Says, big Aliens fan here, never played Dead Space, would like to eventually. I'll tell you what, the Axe 2021, if you are a fan of Alien, you are going to love Dead Space, and let's see if Motive actually comes through and makes us a brand new Dead Space experience. I think we would all like that, yes? All right, let's get started talking about all of the hubbub that Nintendo created today. Nintendo Stealth dropped a new trailer for the Nintendo OLED model, the Nintendo Switch OLED model, which is coming out on October 8th. It's priced at $350 US, so it's about $50 more in America than the standard edition Switch machine that has been available on the market since 2017. There was that sort of quick revision in there where they changed a couple of things to give you better battery life and stuff. The interesting thing about this device, obviously it has a 7-inch OLED screen, so it's a little bit larger, but it will utilize all of the Switch Joy-Con controllers that you might have. You can slap those in there. Also, the dock that works with the new Switch OLED model will also work with the existing Switch, and they're mix and match. And of course, what's also a big key selling component of this new Switch OLED machine is that the dock now has an Ethernet port built right into it. They are still marketing the Nintendo Switch as and the OLED edition as a family-friendly device. This is meant to be enjoyed by groups of people. It's meant to be incredibly accessible. It's coming out in a couple of variations. They're showing off the black and white model. You can see the wired LAN port there, which is kind of a big deal. A little bit more emphasis on a more stable online connection, which I think a lot of Nintendo Switch players, especially Splatoon players and Smash players out there, will appreciate in a big way. But what is, ostensibly the big talking point about this machine is that it's not really an upgrade technologically. It is not really what we were expecting from Nintendo with the Super Switch, which is the name that I would like, or the Switch Pro. It's using the same processor, it's using the same componentry, the same battery, same memory storage. It accepts the cartridges exactly the same. So for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much an identical machine to what is available on store shelves right now with the Nintendo Switch, although you'll get a much better screen sharpness, and it'll be a little bit larger when you're playing in handheld or tabletop mode. Now, I know that this has created quite a stir on the internet. There's all kinds of people that are up in arms because, of course, the Bloomberg leaks and all of the leaks that filtered across the internet were suggesting that we were going to get a more powerful Nintendo Switch. I talked about it here on EP, Guilty as Charged, about possibly having DLSS technology upconvert 1080p video footage to a 4K display and making everything look really, really hot. Doesn't look like we're getting that, and I don't have the official that'll never happen confirmation or anything from Nintendo, but I did ask them today, is the Nintendo Switch's the OLED CPU, GPU custom chip model more powerful than the existing Nintendo Switch model, and will certain games be enhanced? If so, they wrote back and said the Nintendo Switch OLED model CPU is the same as the Nintendo Switch with the NVIDIA custom Tegra processor. I took that right out of the email that I sent back and forth, so there is no wiggle room here. This is it. It's exactly the same processor that we have in the existing Nintendo Switch. Now, clearly, this is a big talking point for everybody that loves Nintendo and loves the Switch. Has maybe been excited about what the next move is for Nintendo because they have just, smashed it out of the park with the existing Nintendo Switch console. It is arguably my favorite video game system ever, and I think a huge chunk of that, yes, is the portability and the flexibility, the transformer-like qualities of it, but also Nintendo's adherence to, giving us access to some classic NES and Super Nintendo stuff. It's also been a great home for a lot of indie stuff and a lot of retro content. I have been loving reviewing content on the Nintendo Switch, but I am one of the vocal, I think, majority out there that was kind of hoping that we were going to get an upgraded processor and have the ability, if not go to 4K, then at least to have better, more stable frame rates on everything. I saw in the chat as I was scanning through some of the comments already that the idea that some processors would be a little bit more advanced might mess with some fair online play, and maybe that came into consideration because Smash is so important to Nintendo, and definitely Splatoon will be. There is kind of an esports celebration happening at Nintendo, an embracing of that culture as well, and you don't want to give people the edge, so maybe that was part of the decision. Or maybe, what Bloomberg sort of leapt onto and had all kinds of inside sources on was really talking about what is going to be the replacement for the Switch, or the next edition of the Switch. This seems like an incremental step forward by giving players an OLED screen, which is going to have a lot more clarity, a lot more sharpness, although still generating at 720p. Although what I've heard about 720p in sort of a portable situation like this is that the eye just can't really make out much more detail if you try to make it a higher resolution in handheld mode. I'm sure that's something that everybody would like to quibble about on the internet as well right now. I did ask earlier in the day on Twitter, I put a poll out there, and you could see it was 85% no and 15% yes on whether people planned to pick up the Nintendo Switch. I got a lot of comments. I've been reading through them throughout the day. Arg Scott says, my old eyes like using it docked on the big screen more. Norman Iglesias says, I love my Switch, but I can't justify buying another one for a better screen and battery. Andy's Banished to Snake Mountain says, the Switch Lite is good enough for my family. Tim A says, short answer, why? Day one Switch owner and basically wants to upgrade. I think a lot of people are probably going to upgrade if they've been on the Switch bandwagon for a while and want the latest hot new. Daniel Labrie says, no, because I play on OLED TV and it's not improved frame rate and visuals, just the screen for portable seems improved, not the power. And, I think that is a pretty standard thing. Yeah, I've got about 1,000 people that have voted on my poll so far, and it is sitting at 86% for no, they are not planning to pick up the Nintendo Switch OLED, and 14% for yes, they are planning to pick up the Nintendo Switch OLED. So what that says to me is that it's going to be a smash, massive success and impossible to find. Doesn't matter what people put in polls, Nintendo stuff sells like crazy, and the Nintendo Switch OLED is going to be an incredibly difficult machine to pick up. I did find it quite fascinating that the game that they were really highlighting and showing off in the trailer is Metroid Dread, a 2D Metroid experience on an OLED screen. I mean, that is just, it's overkill, and I can't freaking wait. I also like that there's a white-black kind of theme in the game, and also on the Switch OLED. That looks so dead sexy to me. I can't wait for that. But yes, I did want more, but clearly it's Nintendo's game here, right? They've been making tons of money with the Nintendo Switch as is. It's hard to find the existing model in stores. They didn't need to do anything, but I think what they've done is they've placated a growing kind of group out there saying, what's next, what's new, what's next, and I'm sure the shareholders and stockholders as well have been saying, what are you going to do now? Okay, it's been 4 years, let's go. Well, now we have an OLED screen and a wired LAN port on our Nintendo Switch. But you know what? If you're watching in the chat today, or you're watching this as an archived video later on, the replay of it, let me know in the comments or in the chat comments whether you plan to pick up the Nintendo Switch OLED and what you thought of Nintendo's presentation today. It sure surprised the world, didn't it? All right, something else that kind of surprised me was a brand new look at the upcoming movie Kingsman. This was sent to me by the fine folks at Fox Canada, which is always kind of surreal because, of course, they're part of the Disney umbrella. And the Kingsman series has been a lot of fun. These movies are really well made. Matthew Vaughn is the director, based on, comic lore that's unbelievably violent and crazy and obnoxious and in your face. This movie is more of a prequel. It's sort of going back in time and giving us the origin of where the Kingsman came from, starting with the first Kingsman. And Ralph Fiennes is the lead in this. He's such a phenomenal actor. I've loved him in all kinds of incredible movies. He's a great partner to Wes Anderson, and I think he's going to do some really fine work in here. Djimon Hounsou is in this. Gemma Arterton is in this as well. There's lots of great character actors that you're going to see. What I'm digging about the look of the movie is that, of course, Kingsman is a franchise that's rife with all kinds of James Bondian tools and gadgets and gimmicks and things like that, but they're period. They're based from an era, and now we're going back to what looks like sort of World War I era. What I like about this little taste of the King's Man is that we also get to see how it connects to the King's Men franchise, which was a little bit more modernized with modern vehicle sequences and modern weaponry and modern outfits and stuff. But this is a group, this espionage group where I think their big motto is "Matters Make the Man," and they're always about dressing well and making a great impression. So we're going to see some really cool costumes and some interesting locations. Fantastic actors in this as well that I think are going to chew the scenery. And then Matthew Vaughn knows how to move the camera. He knows how to play with digital effects and practical effects and make stuff that is incredibly kinetic and fun. And I suspect that's what we're going to get out of here. I mean, I feel like they could have easily just continued on making, Kingsman 3 and just kept going forward with the way that the Kingsman franchise has been already working. It's an interesting take to kind of go back in time and recast everybody and start over a little bit. So I'm also very curious to see how this movie, in the play of the film, if it's got any of the actors from what eventually becomes the King's Men franchise. Maybe they bookend with some of the storytelling or however this is put together. But it looks cool. It looks like there's lots of things blowing up and lots of actors flying around and some really cool stunt work. It's coming out December 22nd. And the other thing that Disney did, and Fox Disney, is they put the flag in the ground and said, theaters only, December 22nd, which I think feels like a pretty safe date. But I can't wait to review that for you guys, and I am looking forward to seeing that one very much. I'm also looking forward to what PlayStation has in store for us this Thursday. They announced today that they've got a state of play happening on Thursday, and the emphasis this time is going to be big time on Deathloop. They're devoting 9 minutes of their 30-minute show to Deathloop, which sounds maybe a little indulgent because we've seen Deathloop now because of delays. This was supposed to be a PlayStation 5 launch game, and it's been delayed. This is a game that borrows from Edge of Tomorrow, that Tom Cruise classic, where you get into, you're basically surviving against all of these other ruthless mercenaries and trying to take down targets. And if you die, you start over again, which is what you do in every video game, but it's really employed in the fiction in this game. And it's also using some of the mobility and some of the effects stuff that Arcane was able to pull off together for the Dishonored franchise, which I'm a huge fan of. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all comes together. This is an important game for PlayStation. May end up becoming one of the last things that Bethesda puts out on the PlayStation, because, of course, what happened since the announcement of Deathloop is that Bethesda became part of the Xbox army. And then, if this is a smash, which I think everybody is really banking on and hoping for, conceivably future iterations of Deathloop may not be on PlayStation. It's going to be interesting how this all sort of comes together, based on the launch of this game. But it has a really cool stylistic kind of vibe to it. I've loved the trailers that they put together, the sort of James Bond style theme music and, some beautiful visuals and effects. I think what happened with the trying to put this together during the pandemic, but also with the delays that they were able to put around Deathloop, is that they could pretty it up. They clearly, this has been playable for a while because you're seeing lots of content in these trailers, even dating back to the stuff we saw last year. But it looks noticeably better in this most recent trailer, and I expect that's what we're going to see on Thursday as well. Now, PlayStation is also going to be talking about some indie stuff as part of their arrangement on the State of Play, and that will be very illuminating because, of course, we've heard a lot of murmurs from indie developers that they aren't too happy with the way that PlayStation has been handling them recently. I think Sony internally has had a much bigger emphasis and focus on their AAA blockbuster transmedia ripe properties, and rightly so. I mean, they put out blockbusters, but I think the entire industry is benefited by the ambitions and the scope and the chasing of windmills that is exemplified by the indie developers out there. And so hopefully there's a bit of a bridge, a little bit of a kumbaya coming together with some of the indie stuff that's announced, and we see some new things. Not just an update on what's going on with Stray. That's the cat with the robots that I can't wait to play. But what else is coming? What else is going to be hitting the PlayStation 5? The other thing that they said as part of the announcement for State of Play is that they don't have anything to talk about with the new PlayStation 5 PSVR or God of War Ragnarok or the new Horizon game, but they will have more on those things, those titles, and that piece of technology in the case of PlayStation VR 2 later this summer, and they're asking us to stay tuned. So are we staying tuned? We're staying tuned. We're all going to stay tuned. Something else that you should stay tuned for is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. It is coming out July 16th, and this was a terrific Wii game that I think I'm maybe one of the only people on Earth that actually obsessed over it and finished it. I keep talking to people, and people were put off by all the waggle. Well, Nintendo said, you know what, we can fix that. We can change the way that you interact in this beautiful world that we've crafted. You don't have to use the waggle controls on the Joy-Con. You can if you want to, but you can also just use buttons and controller configs in some interesting new ways that kind of incorporate some of the motion ideas, but much more thumb-friendly. Well, because this game is coming out very soon, Nintendo reached out to me and said, hey, we know that you're a big Zelda fan. I am, guilty as charged. And we know that a lot of EP fans are big Zelda fans out there, and I know you are. So we've got a cool contest that's running right now, and all you got to do is, I'll tell you what you can win. This is all one big grand prize right here, an exclusive Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword Special Edition Limited Run Jigsaw Puzzle. You get the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD Joy-Con pair, and the amiibo with Zelda and Loftwing, which is really cool. You just have to head to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Electric Playground, and enter to win right there. All the rules and the guidelines and all that stuff is built right into that. I'm going to be picking the winner on the 15th of July and then announcing it on the rundown right here on the 16th of July. So please go to our Facebook page and enter that. I'll be posting on some of the other social media and stuff out there to remind you. But go check out the new Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD contest. And thank you to our friends at Nintendo of Canada for helping us put that together. Very cool, right? Good luck, everybody. All right, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you let me know what you think about the Nintendo Switch OLED model. We will see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.